everyone, and welcome to Let's Play Quest for Glory 1, So You Want to Be a Hero. This is one of those games that goes way back for me. Like, one of the first video games I ever played up there was like Mario and Mortal Kombat and a lot of the Nintendo and Super Nintendo era games. So, this has a special place in my heart, especially since I used to play these old Sierra games with my older brothers. That's why today, I have a special guest, my brother Jesse.
Hi everyone. I'm going to be sitting in and playing in this game with Lindsay, and for the last few years I've seen Lindsay put up these videos, and I've always been super jealous because I think they're so cool, and I'm really excited to be able to be a part, so I'm going to help commentate.
And I'm really happy to have him on with me today. So, this screen right here, this whole little dialog box, this pops up right before you even get to the loading screen for the rest of the game. This is the old school copyright warnings because, you know, pirating was actually an issue even before many of you were born. So I'm going to read the dialog box here. The software you are now using was produced through the efforts of many people: designers, artists, programmers, musicians, and lots of other hardworking folks. If you make copies of this software for any reason other than to make a personal backup, you are not only breaking the law, but raising the cost of software for all legitimate users. Please do not make illegal copies of this game! All caps, because it's important. Oh, by the way, you will need the information contained in the printed documentation to successfully complete this game. In other words, it's not just the law. It's a good idea. By the way, this is a load of bullshit. I have never once needed the documentation that has come with the game in order to complete it. But then maybe that's because I know the game so well by heart. Ah, the old Sierra logo. Brings back memories.
That thrilling audio.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like the THX, but this is the really old school. This is actually the remake of the original version of this game, but because the original version was all text typing interface, as opposed to everything that came later. But yeah, no, this is the point-and-click version. A lot of the interface is just literally you point and you click at things, you right-click or left-click, depending on what you need to interact with. And a very, very basic menu. You can't adjust any settings whatsoever. So this is one of those classic, old-school RPG, action-adventure, point-and-click type games, where, well, I mean, you'll see a lot of it. Do you want me to show the introduction?
If you want to.
There's not much to the introduction. I think a lot of it is basically just a credit sequence, but, just in the interest of being complete. And because I do like the music. Quest for Glory! So you want to be here. That went fast. Executive producer Ken Williams. By the way, Roberta Williams and Ken Williams are like the big forerunners of the Sierra games. Roberta Williams was actually the one that created King's Quest, which is, to my knowledge, one of the earliest computer-based video games.
It was also one of the most popular. I can remember kids were playing it in my grade school on the one computer that we had in class. And, everybody, it would, like, people would line up to play and watch other people play. It was ridiculous.
You got a little bit drowned out there, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. But yeah, I remember this was one of those games. All of these games, like the King's Quest, I loved that series. Although I really only started on King's Quest V. Yeah, I don't think this introduction is going to... Oh, the composer for the music is Mark Siebert. I love his music, and you'll actually hear some really beautiful pieces from him in this game. But anyway. Oh, choose your character. Alright. We talked about this. We're going to go with Fighter. You have three options, though. You can go with Fighter, Magic User, or Thief, and every single one of them will actually have an independent path through the game that is actually sharply different based on their playstyle. Like the Magic User will have specific quests that only they can do. The Thief literally is the only one that can go around stealing things from different domiciles within the game, and this is true through the whole series. Alright, what should we name our hero?
Ooh, I don't know. I used to put in names from characters from the Dragonlance books I used to read.
I remember those books too. But how about Uther?
Okay.
Just for a little bit of context for that, my brother regularly plays a character named Uther in the Core Thieves at the Renaissance Festival. So I figured that might be funny. Alright, so probably going to want to boost up the strength. I'm going to actually throw climbing into the mix, 15 points to spend on that just so that we have the ability to climb.
It's not essential, but it's a good thing to have. You might as well put it in. And I would definitely put a little into, like, boost the strength quite a bit. Everything else, I mean, parry, dodge, stealth, vitality is somewhat important. That's going to grow up, but, you know, I would say strength, throwing, and yeah, those are the most important pieces, and vitality.
I'm going to put a little bit into weapon use and parry. Those will also be boosted, but it's good to have them up. Even from, I'm going to put that actually into vitality, because vitality is one of those, the ability to take a hit, and as well as affects your health points as well. It actually affects a lot of these down here. As we are not a magic user, we do not have to worry about the magic stat. We might be able to boost that in later games. And you may have noticed also, when I put some points into climbing, it took 15 points to actually open up a rank that originally had 0 in it. And it only gave 5 points total, so it's 10 points to basically purchase the ability to climb, and then 5 points for an actual rank.
This is something that was interesting, that it's a way that you can build your character across different genres, so you can be a fighter that casts magic, or that can pick locks and stealth like a thief, but it means that you're not going to be particularly good at any one thing. So it's a cool thing to have, but it's not necessary.
Right. And that's one of those, I mean, it can be actually very helpful to be a fighter that can use some magic, because there are some spells that end up being really useful in this game. I typically play as a magic user. But you don't want to spread yourself too thin in terms of buying and this actually kind of goes back to old school, like, tabletop role-playing, because you couldn't just, have ranks in abilities that your character did not have as a class. There was always some additional cost in order to actually cross-class rank. Anyway, all of that said, I don't want to linger too much on this particular screen, but we've set up our character, Uther, and he is going to be a fighter. He's going to have some climbing abilities, because climbing is a useful skill to have, at least for me. At least in terms of how I handle a lot of the puzzles in this game. So, let's start. I love that the waiting symbol on the screen is the dragon.
I used to put it over the head of the player, or...
Yep. This seems like a quiet little town. On the porch ahead of you are 2 people. The standing one is large, rather ugly, and playing with a yo-yo. The seated person smoking a pipe looks like he might be the sheriff. So the game literally just tosses you in to, you've come into town from the mountains. I think a lot of the backstory is actually explained in the documentation provided with the game, where you're freshly out of hero school and you want to prove yourself to be a hero. That's right, you attended school to be a hero. Alright, the man with the pipe greets you. You want to take over this guy, Jesse?
Sure. Welcome to our town. You are lucky to have made it down from the mountains before the snow blocked the pass again. It's gotten pretty dangerous outside town, I understand. Many monsters have been trapped around here with the late snow. Between them and the brigands, we certainly could use a hero around here.
Capital H hero.
That's perfect. I am Sheriff Schultz Meisterson. This is Otto von Goon, my assistant. Good luck in your quest.
Well, that's helpful. It's always nice to be greeted by someone as soon as you get into town. So, I'm going to show off the toolbar at the top here. We do not have magic, so this little screen here, this little icon, is not accessible to us at this time. We're not going to be able to do magic at any point, unfortunately. So there's the walk icon, and you can cycle through it by right-clicking on the computer interface, and that moves you from side to side. I am going to kick up the speed just a smidge. This is, by the way, the main menu screen. You can save, restore one of your earlier saves, restart the entire game, quit, and, get information, but we want to just go back to play. It also keeps track of your points. Your inventory shows what you have on your person. The eye icon shows you, well, you can use that to look around and get more detail about your surroundings. You have 4 gold pieces and 10 silver pieces, weighing 0.2 pounds. You have 5 food rations, each weighs 0.3 pounds. You have 1 broadsword, it weighs 7 pounds. You have 1 leather jerkin, it weighs 20 pounds. You have 1 shield, it weighs 12 pounds. You can actually use this. This has you interact with things like you would do this. Excuse me. You would use the hand on the rations if you wanted to eat one randomly. We don't have much that we can interact with here, and these are drop and pick up. And you are now carrying 41 pounds of equipment, supplies, and whatever else you've picked up along the way. You can carry up to 60 pounds of equipment without getting a severe backache. So we're going to have to be careful. This little icon right here. So if you want to talk with people, this is the mouth. Again, the hand is for interaction. This one gives you the option to switch between walking, running, and stealth, which we can't really do. You can choose this button to select a rest. This shows you the character sheet that we already just saw. This shows you the time of day. Time of day is actually somewhat important in this game. There are some quests that actually rely on you being in a particular place at a particular time. So it is midday on day 1. And then when we can ask questions, I cover that over all of these. Oh, select this icon to... Okay, so this tells you everything that I just told you.
All I was going to say is if you're... Yeah, I would switch to running, because this actually improves your, I think, stamina?
Yeah, your stamina
as you run around through the game.
Alright. So, we just did a lot of exploring of the toolbar and stuff like that. Let's take a look around at this new town, right? Schultz appears to be an affable old coot, content to smoke his pipe. There's a hardness behind his eyes, however, that gives you reason to believe he's no pushover. There's more than a hint of ogre about this strange and bulky character. He seems cheerful, though. Try to see if I can get... Gosh! That's an authentic whamma-blamma 3 scoops of mana, hilarious gregarious, floats in the areas yo-yo! And he's about to do a little trick with that. He bounced it off of our head. That's great. The sheriff's office doubles as a jail for the town and a hangout for the sheriff and the goon. The ugly statue seems to be watching you. So yes, you can literally click on almost any part of the screen and end up having some sort of dialogue box. Like what's actually kind of interesting is that some of the old school games, you can always tell when something is interactable because it's separate from the foreground. Like, obviously the hero and these 2 characters right here are animated differently than how the background is painted. But you can still kind of poke around, like, this. If this is the town water supply, no wonder nobody ever comes here. And it'll give you information about what's going on. Like, this was in the old interface, you could type look at, and then you could say look at sheriff, and it'll give you that same description. I prefer the point and click interface. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, and something about this game that's kind of nifty is that just about everything is interactable. You click on the sign, it says, the sign is this and this, and you can read just about anything, and they go into great detail, which is something that a lot of modern games just don't do. Like if you can't interact with something, there's nothing to do with it. It's just there. It's just part of the scenery. But old games like this went into really great detail, which is something you just don't see anymore.
Well, part of that is that they had to make up for the fact that the graphics couldn't showcase everything. They had to do it through the text. They had to do it through telling the story. So, I mean, I still love a lot of the writing in, the modern tales, the modern games and everything, but they were able to actually immerse you by describing things through the writing. The windows glow from a light inside. The sign reads, Hero's Tale Inn. So we're not going to go in there immediately. We're going to check out this... Stop throwing that at me! I was leaving! So, we enter this side of town, and there's an eyeball that's following us. The eye over the magic shop door seems to be watching you. She's the only sane person here. At least she's not off her rocker.
Yeah.
Be ready for a lot of puns like that in this game. That is something that will happen. That kind of writing, the sarcasm, and it gets worse as the series progresses. They were actually pretty moderate in this game versus later games in the series, where the sarcasm just goes completely off the rails. Judging from what the sign says, the building at the end of the street is the guild hall. You can even kind of distantly make that out. Alright, so let's go visit the guild hall. That's actually a pretty good place to start. You enter the Adventurers Guild Hall. This Adventurers Guild Hall reminds you of the one in your hometown. The traditional moose head and other stuffed monsters, Saurus, troll, griffin, dragon, cheetar, and the terrible Antwerp, adorn the walls. Cheetar and Antwerp are things, and I think the Saurus, are things that are unique to this game. And they are all creatures that we will encounter. Well, the griffin and the dragon, less so. But yeah, these are all creatures that we can expect to run into at some point. You see a registration book on the table and the bulletin board full of job listings. The man seated near the window must be the guildmaster. He is snoring. And you can actually probably end up hearing that through the audio. So you can take again a look around. This is certainly a weird one. You'd never seen anything quite like it. The plaque reads, Antwerp, slain by 2 guys from Andromeda. Isn't that the guys in Space Quest?
Very good question. I think it is. I think that's probably a shoot off to that, but I don't know.
A lot of these Sierra games, they made references to other Sierra games, and I believe 2 guys from Andromeda, I don't know definitively, were listed as being part of the Space Quest universe as well. The head is like a panther's, but with a strong human-like quality. It is still rather frightening. The plaque reads, Cheetar, slain by Wolfgang Abentur. Even in death, this monster remains awesome. The plaque reads, Dragon, slain by Baron Stefan von Spielberg. That would be the sheriff, by the way. No, Baron, right. That's actually but I'm pretty sure the sheriff also has some kills in here, too. It looks like it must have been a particularly nasty troll. You wouldn't want to meet him in a dark forest. Okay. The plaque reads, Troll slain by Wolfgang Abentur, so this Wolfgang is pretty prolific, huh? No, the Baron is someone else, and we'll run into them, I believe. Yes. This crossbreed of eagle and lion could have torn a man apart when it was alive. The plaque reads, Griffin, slain by Wolfgang Abentur. That is 3 creatures on this wall that have been slain by this guy. The plaque under the moose reads, Courtesy of the Sierra Online Prop Department. And they do actually include a moose head in every game. You never saw a Purposaurus before you came to Spielberg, but it looks like a really stupid monster. The plaque reads, Saurus slain by Hans Halfwitten. This tapestry is so rotten, it would probably fall apart at the slightest touch. Do you want to try touching it? Let's try to do that. I guess we can do that later. But this on the table, which again doesn't stand out nearly as much as the fire, is the logbook for all adventurers. We can go and check it out. And we got points for doing so.
Yeah, that's another part of this, is that this is the points-based quest game. So as you get up to the point of the game is to get to 500, but you know, you can beat the game without getting 500. But the point is, if you do everything, you should get 500.
It's more of a gauge of how complete you've actually played through the game, like which puzzles you've actually solved and what you've actually done. And the points that you get are actually specific to your character. As a fighter, we get more points for killing creatures and bringing back trophies and stuff like that, but as a magic user, you get more points for using magic-based solutions to things, and as a thief, you get points for stealing. And it's actually one of those major things and joining the Thieves Guild, which I cannot showcase as a fighter, I'm sorry. But this entry was made several years ago. It says, Baronet Bernard von Spielberg killed a troll near the Flying Falls on this 23rd day of October. Because this does not take place in our world. It takes place in a world where it's October. Alright. Reading again. The other pages record the exploits of the great adventurers of Spielberg's past. The names Wolfgang Abentur and Baron Stefan von Spielberg appear most often. So those are the people that were, well, the Barons von Spielberg we're going to run into, yes. I've mentioned that before. But that will be a later context. For now, let's sign our name into the guild book. Or the book. The guild book thing. You sign your name into the Adventurer's Logbook with a flourish. That's what I meant to say, yes. And some of the games will have you sign it with a flourish. Some of them will have you sign it just plain straight out. A fire blazing cheerily on the fireplace helps warm the guildmaster's old bones. How we know that from simply looking at the fire, I don't know.
Well, I can also just confirm, by the way, that the Antwerp and the two guys, that is from Space Quest, so good call.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I'm also going to show you the saving system, because this was actually based on slots available on your computer, like space that you had on your either on a floppy or on the actual computer itself. I think you had to save it to a floppy, didn't you?
You didn't have to, but tell you that if you did have a lot of save games, it would actually eat up all the space on your computer.
And the change directory was if you wanted to move to a different spot to save it someplace else, but I'm content to leave it where it is. I'm going to save this as LP1 because we have come to the end of the first episode of Let's Play Quest for Glory 1, but I hope to see you next time where we continue exploring the Guild Hall as well as the rest of the town.
All right, nice chatting with you.
All right, see you next time.